In today's video, I'm talking to lovely Charlotte from Survive, Succeed, Achieve, who was a home education tutor and is now a full-time education provider. She has very kindly agreed to share her journey with me. If you're new to this channel, my name's Jenna. I'm a qualified primary school teacher, now a full-time tutor who chats to others about their experiences in education. If you like today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a supportive comment down below and subscribe and all that jazz. Thank you so much for joining me, Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having
me. Lovely. Now, we've actually never spoken before. We've only just come across each other recently on Facebook. So I don't know anything about you at all. So it's going to be fun to find out. Right.
Lovely.
So first question is, what is your education start again. What is your background in education?
So I feel like my journey is a little bit different to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people did mainstream for quite a long time and then transitioned to like the tutoring home ed world. But other than my work experience and volunteering in mainstream, I've been pretty much home education world and tutoring world for my kind of full career. And I love it. It is so good. Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to teach, but I always knew I didn't quite want to go in the mainstream system. I wanted to support students with special educational needs. So I kind of went around a different route and just decided to go fully into the home education community. So yeah.
Oh, and how did you, because when teachers leave the profession, in many cases, in some groups you go on to, they don't like it if you're a teacher. And, you know, I've been told that when I was first starting to try and work with home education, you know, it takes a while to families to trust you. And obviously, if their children have had not the best time at school, they don't really want to be with someone that's linked to a school environment. So how did you get your way into home education, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's a very like diverse opinions, isn't it? I know some people will only take like PGCE qualified teachers. Some other people, like
Yeah.
you say, maybe a bit more hesitant. So I did my degree in counselling and psychology. And then because I didn't want to work in mainstream, instead of a PGCE, I did my education and training qualification and then my tutor training qualification and certified tutor status. It went on for a while and then kind of worked through there. But the way I went into home education was a family friend of ours actually started home educating their child. And I started tutoring them. And then it was kind of like our local home ed community just kind of like spread like wildfire. And it was like, oh, Charlotte's actually quite good at this. We'll have a Charlotte too. And then I ended up kind of like working with lots of the different students there. And then like a lot of people ended up transitioning to online work eventually after that. Yeah. But it was all started in my local home ed community and then kind of branched out after that.
Oh, so my next kind of question is, so when you first started, obviously, how was it different to now? So were you face to face a lot of the time then?
Yeah, I was 100% face to face and one-to-one sessions. I did a few groups originally, but yeah, mostly one-to-one and all face to face, which now I have no face to face. So a big change.
Oh yeah, and how did you find the face to face kind of environment?
I did love it. It was so good. I feel like you can engage so well, especially when you've got, say, like I do Key Stage 3 and GCSE. So younger Key
Okay.
Stage 3 students, I think they really do work well face to
Yeah.
face. It was lovely. But obviously the hours for that are a lot more, you know, traveling to people's houses
Yeah.
and traveling back. It makes it a little bit trickier and also kind of make your pool a bit smaller of who you can access if you're
Yeah.
in just that face to face local area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found with face to face that when there is a lot more, it's not just the lesson you have to think about the traffic time in between lessons
Mm-hmm.
and the safety element, because in winter when it gets darker and if you've got 3 lessons and they're up till like 9 o'clock at night, you know, you're not always, you know, keeping yourself the best really at being safe, so you have to look at that element. Right, okay. So
Definitely.
then you've obviously kind of you did your tutor qualification, so to speak. So when you did that, was that in mind with I'm going to go into tutoring then, or was that I'll just try it and if it comes in
Yeah.
handy?
kind of. I thought, this is actually something that I think like I could love and I could do for a really long time. So
Oh,
I thought, you know what, let's take the plunge. I'll go for the tutor qualification, my certified tutor status, after I did my education and training qualification. I thought, you know what have you got to lose? I'll just
oh, lovely.
give it a go and then, launch my full business and see how it goes. And so far it's gone really well.
Oh, lovely. And what was involved in that tutor for qualification? Because actually, you don't actually need a qualification to be a tutor. So
Yeah.
that to me is really interesting because I didn't know there were tutor qualifications. So what did that involve?
So it was very similar to my education and training qualification that I did, but slightly different because it was zooming in on tailored one-to-one sessions was the main
Oh,
breadth of
that's
it.
good.
So it was like lesson planning and carrying out lessons, assessment and marking, all things to do with engaging one-on-one with a student and that kind of like support network and things. And then it also meant that I can go for my certified tutor status, which kind of puts you on a register of certified tutors. So, kind of like when you get your enhanced DBS and people can check, and just kind of see evidence and that kind of thing. But yeah, very similar to my education and training, but just a bit more zoomed in on one-to-one work, which obviously, as you know, kind of tutoring goes way
Yeah.
past that these days. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting to hear because I didn't know that was even an option. And is it still an option now? Can you still do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's
Oh,
maybe like 2 or 3 different course providers that do it now, I think. So yeah, it was definitely really interesting. And like the assessment and marking side I thought was really useful and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
oh,
it was very good.
very good. So, so that was your starting point then, face to face, home ed community. So then, how many years have you been doing it now?
Oh, well, that was quite a few years, maybe over 5, almost 6 years since like the very beginning of starting
Oh, wow.
that
So
kind of
you've,
face-to-face
oh,
tutoring. Yeah, but the full business side of doing it full time, about a year and a half. So still pretty fresh to the game in that sense compared to a lot of people.
and how have you changed? How has your business
Oh,
changed?
yeah. So I do no face to face anymore. It's all online, which is wonderful because like I have students in Scotland, I have students in Thailand, all around
Wow.
the world, which is so cool. The time frame differences is hard to juggle
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It is really good. And now I do still do majority of my work one-to-one, but I also do webinars and pre-recorded courses and resources, just kind of like expanding into different kind of avenues for things. Yeah,
And do you find that hard to manage all that?
sometimes. I think,
Yeah.
as with any kind of business that you run yourself, as I'm sure you know, the juggling is, there's the one-to-one sessions and then your marking and then prepping for pre-recorded courses, doing your admin and social media and the scary tax, all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. You don't really realize until you do it yourself. Like you see
Yeah.
people like advertising their courses and all that kind of stuff. And I've done that. I've done like recorded lesson packages and stuff. But they take a lot of time. They
Yeah.
take a lot of like it's scary being on. I know we're on camera now, but like when you're recording yourself for a product, it's
Mm-hmm.
quite
It's
interesting to see how
yeah,
you are online
definitely.
or on a
Yeah.
video or whatever. So lovely.
I think like my pre-recorded GCSE psychology course, I'd say it took me about a year altogether to put together
Oh,
because it was
wow.
like, right and recording all of the units and then making the exam questions for it and things. You start, oh, this will be a good project to do, and then you think, oh gosh, what have I got myself in for?
Because they're so detailed, aren't they? And like the exams change, I imagine, quite often. So you
Yeah.
have to look at different criteria all the time. So it must be
Yeah.
like, ah,
Yeah,
a
it's
little
a
bit.
lot to juggle, but it's so worth it when you find that people really find it useful. And like you say, with like pre-recorded courses, I think people really benefit from them. That
Mm,
you can pause when you want and you can engage when you want, especially maybe for students that find it trickier with live lessons. It can be really
yeah.
good. So worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I think because a lot of home ed children I've worked with, when they've come from school, they've maybe struggled with anxiety or something like that, and a live lesson is too much, or when they join a lesson, they'll have their camera off or something like that because they just get quite overwhelmed, and that's fine by me. Like whatever they want to do, whatever makes them comfortable. So you can see why recorded lessons are so beneficial because
Oh,
people can
definitely.
just choose, and people's lifestyles are changing now. A lot of people finding out about home education, they don't have to go to a school building, that they can just educate at home, wherever that home is. So they're like
Yeah,
different
very flexible.
options, really. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
lovely. So what has surprised you the most about tutoring?
Ooh, I would say maybe the diversity of what there is available in that sense.
Oh, okay.
So that maybe, because I feel like a lot of people may assume it's purely academic things that you offer, like
Yeah.
stereotypically academic. But there's such a range. So like I know you do like the baking clubs and the art clubs and things. And like in my week I do mental health study sessions
Oh,
and
wow.
psychology ones for younger kids. And they're just like non-academic things that wouldn't be offered in a school, but
Yeah.
are so kind of useful for people and people kind of enjoy them so much. So exploring those non-academic options, I think, is so great for people.
Yeah, you saying that, because I noticed, and when I've talked to others, a lot of people that are pulling their children out of school don't want to have to do English, maths, and science, or they want to do it, but they want to do it, as and when. Whereas a
Mm-hmm.
lot of online providers, apparently, I don't know myself, but I've been told that you have to do a certain number of English, certain number of maths, science, and they don't want that. They want more flexibility, home ed parents.
Mm.
So, and they don't want just the normal,
Yeah, I think it's a
because
big like engagement thing as well. A lot of people, when they put their kids in home ed, they want them to like learning again, whether that is learning how to bake or learning about mental health and things, to
yeah,
just something to get them engaged and wanting to learn. Like you said, if they've come out of mainstream and they're really anxious, or say like the majority of my students either have special educational needs or they're neurodivergent, the parents just and carers just want them to engage and enjoy something, so
mm,
that it's so much more flexible.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. When I kind of on the way out of school, I did supply, and my background was early years, so I was used to play based.
Mm.
But then when I'd go into year 1 and 2, and they were sitting for 6 hours a day, and they're doing phonics and English and maths, and there wasn't really any time for fun. Because I
Yeah.
remember primary school being fun,
Mhm.
and your favorite teacher, and you wouldn't, not everything was in a book. It was like just for the sake of
Mhm.
enjoyment, really. Whereas I don't think, well, when I was in school, that wasn't the case by the time I left. It was just very evidence-based, but I know teachers were under pressure because they weren't trusted unless they had the evidence. And the easiest way to get the evidence is in a book. So it's very difficult. Right. So, what has been the biggest challenge for you as a tutor?
I would definitely probably say the juggling of it is the most wonderful job, but when you're self-employed, I think in any way, there's so many things to do. So whether it's planning one-to-one lessons and then doing them and then marking, coming up with new ideas as well, kind of like not wanting to be stagnant and think of something new to offer, just kind
Yeah.
of keeping up with it all. It can be a bit tricky, but it's very rewarding. It just takes a lot of brain power.
It's nice that you can be in charge of that as well, because obviously if you're in a strict setting, you can only do certain subjects.
Yeah.
So yeah, do it. Yeah, but it can be hard because then you're constantly on a roll. You've like, I've got to think of something now, or even for your own sake, so that you don't get bored of what you
Yeah.
teach.
Yeah, definitely.
Really.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that is a big part.
So obviously your background is in home education, tutoring.
Mhm.
What did you take from that to your now full-time tutor education business?
Ooh, I would say a big chunk of the way I teach is very kind of person-centered. And I think from the home ed community, you can really like work with that very quickly, as opposed to kind of like a mainstream background. You kind of are forced in mainstream, sadly, to have to teach, 35 kids in a class and be under so much pressure. Whereas with home ed, it's, you can tailor all your sessions to that specific student and work with their strengths or their struggles, especially if they have additional needs and things like that, that can just really help them thrive. I would say as well, because my degree was in counseling and psychology, I kind of try and include mental health and things like that in a huge way in my business too, just to try and go with that holistic approach, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that sounds really, really good.
Mm.
Yeah, that's really, really good. If you were starting out again as a tutor,
Mhm.
what would you do differently?
Ooh. I would maybe, I would say maybe not to be so hesitant, because I feel like a lot of people, myself included, when you kind of dipping your toe into anything like this, you can be quite hesitant or, maybe doubtful of yourself, not knowing whether to dive in and offer things and do things. And then maybe just not be so hesitant and just explore these things sooner. A lot of the time, like with webinars, pre-recorded courses and resources, just go for it and see what comes instead of fretting about it and waiting for months and months to decide whether to offer something or not. Just going for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my first person that I spoke to, another tutor called Katie, she said, Just start because,
Yeah.
you'll always find," well, she didn't quite say you'll always find an excuse, but she's just, you don't need a lot of things to start tutoring. You just
Yeah.
gotta, if you've got the idea, just go for it because, you know, you might regret it if you don't try it. If it doesn't work out, then you'll be all right, but at least you've
Yeah.
had a go.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, if
Always
you
worth
were
it.
talking, if a new tutor was listening to this video,
Mhm.
what would you say to them starting out?
I would maybe say to really let yourself just explore different options. I think a lot of the time, especially if tutors and teachers have come from mainstream, you maybe feel like there's lots of pressure or constraints there from what it was like you say, in the pressure of the mainstream system, but it's so much more fluid and so much more flexible. So, let yourself and your student explore different topics and, guided by their interests, find whatever passions they have that can help them engage. It's so much more flexible that you can really just make it work for that specific student without worrying about, oh, I've got to keep to this exact curriculum or this exact syllabus and offer these exact things. And if that is what the parent or carer wants, that is great. But you will find that a lot of people really just want someone to kind of help their kids engage with learning and, find something that they enjoy. So yeah, don't let the constraints and pressure and expectations stop you from exploring all of these different options that could work so well for different students.
Yeah, I think especially if you're, like you say, coming from education, because I was at one point be like, oh, I've got to get this part of the curriculum done this time of the year. But you have to remember, some children, you're only with like an hour a week. There's
Yeah.
only so much you can do with a child.
Yeah.
And like you say, your approach sounds really, really good because it's very child-centered
Mhm.
and following what's right for them. And hopefully you've got the support of the parent. Obviously, it depends on the family and everything. But yeah, well, it's been lovely chatting to you. So just to finish off, what are you currently offering and where can people find you?
So you can find me, mostly I use Facebook. I think that's a popular with a lot of tutors, at Survive, Succeed, Achieve. I currently offer one-to-one sessions, English, maths, and psychology, webinars each week about mental health and psychology and maths. And then also my pre-recorded GCSE psychology course is a new one, and lots of resources on my shop. And like I say, always new ideas trying to come up with.
Oh wow, you are busy, aren't you? You've got loads of resources. I haven't quite
Work.
cracked the resources. I've tried, but it's hard.
It takes a lot of time. Yeah.
It's not something that, because when people say, oh, have a side income, those side incomes take quite a lot
Yeah.
of time.
They do, definitely. Yeah, they take sometimes just as much work as the main.
I think once they're
Yeah.
done, it's fine, isn't it? But it's
Yeah.
just afterwards.
Yeah. Slowly ticking away in the background, those kind of things. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Well, if you've liked today's video, please, like I said, make sure to like and give it a thumbs up and leave a lovely comment and subscribe so you can see what other interviews I do. Thank you again for joining me and thanks very much for watching.